Welcome, everybody, to the Be More Rugby podcast. Lee's here with us. How are you, Lee?
Very well, James. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Nice to be back again. So,
Absolutely. And we've got Amy Humphries with us. Rugby with Amy, as many of you will know her on social media. Amy, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Been a busy few weeks. Been moving house, moving jobs. So just the whole new year, new me thing started, I think, from March. So yeah, it's been
from
busy,
March.
but I'm feeling good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come on to your career hopefully shortly and talk about the amazing things that you've achieved so far and the amazing people that you've interviewed as well, which those that follow you will probably already be well aware of. But as we do, we'll have a warm-up, 5-10 minutes, talk about some rugby, Six Nations, Freddie Stewart, red card. Everybody was up in arms about it. Now it's a yellow card. We put out a post on social media, as us youngsters do. And it was very clear that everybody kind of thought it wouldn't have made too much of a difference to the result. Most thought it would still be an Ireland win.
Not sure about that. Controversial, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I mean, first of all, the incident itself was just what a load of nonsense. For me, it's not. It's a rugby incident. It's not even. It doesn't even warrant a penalty. It was, and the way that the referee, unfortunately, I thought was guided by his fellow touch judges and the video ref. They just did not come to the right decision at all. And for the I'll call it the major showpiece of the Six Nations. It ruined it. We're at a point where Ireland were just struggling to almost get away from England, but we were holding on by our fingernails. It was a really good game. The first half was really good, really exciting, and I felt that would have continued in the second half. And I think actually, for me, it would have been a one-score match. So we could have ended up the last 10 minutes, England pushing to try and score a try, which might have ruined Ireland's party. But however, I'm very happy for Ireland because they were the best team all the way through. So really happy about that. But really, rugby's got to look at what happens when we have referees making poor decisions. At a point where we're trying to grow the game and get everyone's interest in the game, right? Yeah, there's lots of people who would have been tuning in who are not day-to-day rugby fans, and that game was ruined by one poor decision. So yeah, I don't know. I'm disappointed from that point of view, but I'm very happy for Ireland.
Yeah, see, my mum's Irish, my dad's English, so it was a win-win situation for me. But yeah, I'm really happy for Ireland. I think, like you're saying, consistency was key with them. The fact that they were showing up strong in all of their games. And England, we weren't. Look at us against France. I don't know what happened then, but if fair play, if we've been strong throughout the Six Nations, and this could have been a little bit more of a close call, or could have meant a lot more in terms of positioning and things, but it wouldn't have particularly made a difference that way. But I do think in terms of like the red card, he was just bracing for the kick, really, wasn't he? So it wasn't a red card in my opinion, and obviously now you can see that it wasn't meant to be a red card anyway. And yeah, that plays a massive part on the game. Losing a player, playing against Ireland, going through like a whole half without 14 players is going to affect you. But I agree. They came out so strong. Like the momentum at the start, you could see it was a whole different mindset. I don't know what chat they had, but the mindset was completely different. So it could have been a different game. But it's one of those could have, would have, should have. But at the same time, we don't want to be too detailed in like structure and stuff, because that's when you start losing the game. And the momentum, and people like it to be entertaining, and the stoppages and all of that, it plays into that. So I think we want rugby to be safe, but we want it to also be entertaining and keep momentum going. So there's a fine balance. And on this occasion, the wrong call was made. Yeah, definitely.
Do you think it was a wrong call to have put out that it'd been rescinded and reduced to a yellow? I mean, I know he wants to play rugby, and there's ramifications for a red card versus different ones for a yellow. But when a decision's made like that, it almost feels like it makes a bit of a mockery when you go back on it and say, well, actually, we're going to change this now. Should it have just stood and they just went, okay, bad decisions are made, live with it?
I think, well, it kind of placates the masses, because the majority of people, are dead sure it was not a red card. Whatever else they think it might have been, it definitely was not a red. So I think that placates those people. And also they have to be careful as well, because, you're looking at Jacko Piper, and you have to they have to try and support the referee as well. So he's made a decision, and to be fair, he's not made it alone. He's made it with the support of the group around him. And I just think he's fallen foul of them not guiding him in the right way. That was an out-and-out rugby incident, which, you get week in, week out, wherever you go in the country. Was it Mac Hansen running sideways across the pitch, threw the ball forwards on the floor, right? And he was just trying to recover it. And Freddie Stewart was there. He has 0.1 of a second to react. Tries to turn his body away, and ends up hitting his elbow onto the head, and it was just a really, really bad decision. But anyway, getting back to your point, James, I think probably for me the right thing to do is the decision stands. It's a bad decision, but we have to live with it. However, it does mean that Freddie gets to play this week, if the club lets him. That is.
You're quite close to a lot of the players, Amy, in and around the games. Was there any reaction to that in the professional setting?
Yeah, not from the players themselves. I guess they're on media rest a lot of the time during that sort of phase if they're going for international games. So there's only certain people you can speak to, and they're the people that are playing the Prem games and the club games. So we don't directly hear from them. They probably are told not to comment, even if they have their opinions. And I'm sure they had their opinions on that. And like you're saying, there just wasn't enough time to react. So it wasn't like it was a high tackle or a dangerous move. It was that it was a brace for some sort of impact, and the impact happened to be a head injury. So, and that was probably more down to the player not looking up at that space, or, so you could almost say, was the responsibility for you to, as a player, to also be aware of the space you're running into. And so from the players themselves, but I know from the media world it was a big talking point, wasn't it? And we've seen that on socials, on like news blogs and things like that. So it was definitely a big talking point. But then again, like I said, I do think Ireland earned that throughout the whole Six Nations, and to get a Grand Slam, it's just amazing. And to get it at home, at the Aviva, is huge for them. So it's keeping that momentum going, and I'm hoping that momentum's going to go into the women's game, so that we can start to see a more competitive Six Nations for the women as well, because obviously now we have a lot more clubs that are pro, contracted full-time athletes now. So I'm hoping for a more competitive, which equals more entertaining women's Six Nations this year. And, again, if Ireland women can get the momentum from the men, you never know what's going to happen there. So, yeah, it's good to keep that going.
I'm really excited for the women's Six Nations this year, because it's the last few years the women's game's been such a different spectacle, and I think respect where respect is due. The legend that is Sarah Hunter is retiring. What an era she's seen through rugby, and how much it's changed and how influential she's been within the game. I couldn't help didn't want this podcast to pass without saying fair play to her, because what a player, what an inspiration to rugby players of all ages and all sexes. A proper legend. And of course, people have to retire. It's just a shame when someone like Sarah Hunter does. But you've met her, you've talked to her. Have you talked to her about her retirement coming up?
So I haven't seen her since that was announced, but I went to the England press conference, and they were announcing the Six Nations squad. And Simon was saying that Sarah Hunter definitely wouldn't be at the World Cup. So we kind of had a bit of an inkling as to, we know she's definitely retiring at that point, but we actually thought it would be after the Six Nations. But I think I love that she did her last game where she started playing. So it wasn't necessarily like an international game that she stopped at. And I mean, 140 caps, you can't be like upset about that, can you? That's just an incredible number, and it's in the history of international rugby. To be the most capped player is definitely a title worth carrying with pride as you leave. So and even just the way when she surpassed Rocky Clark, the way she handed that over was so professional, and she really gave Rocky the what's the word when the recognition, that's the word, that she deserved from that. And the way she handles interviews, press, it's always very genuine, very heartfelt. You could just tell she was playing from pure passion. And players like her that have played for so long, especially in the women's game, they're the people that absolutely love what they do, because she did that when there was no support for women and there was no pay for women. She still turned up on top of working to get all of those caps, to now leave in a situation where rugby's in a whole different space for women. I mean, she's kind of seen it grow massively, so I think she must be really proud of seeing how that's all changed from the start of her career to now. So I think she can leave knowing she's made history and she's made a massive difference and inspired a lot of young girls and women in the sport. Definitely, she's someone that inspires me to keep going, even if you feel like you're getting older and your injuries are getting worse. She was like, no, keep going. So yeah, she's incredible.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, for us older ones, we can remember when and the women games come on so far, but when she was first got captaincy, even before she got captaincy of England, you could just tell there was something special about her way back then. Just incredible player. Right, I think we'll probably move on then with our first half. Just to introduce again, Amy Humphries on social media. She's Rugby with Amy, rugby journalist, content creator, social media manager, which we'll probably come on to because Lee probably doesn't know what that is.
No, I've got the thesaurus and dictionary around somewhere, mate. I don't know if it's on there either. So
you've worked with Ball Carrier. Most recently, you've started working with Canterbury. You've got all your own social media channels. You've interviewed the greatest and the best players around the world. You got 36,000 followers on TikTok and 19,000 on Instagram, and views of 1.7 million on things and stuff that Lee doesn't understand.
Oh, we can only dream of things like that, James.
And of course, all at the same time as playing for Old Albanian Saints at the same time. So busy career you've got.
When you say it like that, I think yeah, I realise how much I do. Sometimes you don't realise until you actually lay it out like that. But yeah, I mean, it all started because I played rugby, and I guess that's where the passion starts. And there's obviously so much that has happened, but the fact that my job even exists is crazy for the rugby industry and for the women's rugby industry to be able to create content for women's rugby and men's rugby and social media as a full-time job just shows you how much the game is growing for women out there, to the fact that this is even a role. And I had to create that role from scratch. So, but things like that is creating a pathway for other girls in the future to be able to say that's what I want to do when I grow up. So and we are seeing young girls starting to sort of do what we're doing now, and honestly I feel like they do it a lot better than me half the time. But so started playing rugby when I was 12. I got into it through school, which is actually quite rare for girls, especially over 10 years ago as well. So I think that was probably mainly down to my PE teacher being into rugby. So I think maybe if that wasn't the case, it wouldn't have been pushed as hard in my school, but really got into it. And I think I was hooked on the contact element of it and the excitement, the adrenaline, the risks that come with it. It was all part of why it felt so incredible to play. And yeah, from there went into play as a woman as well. So yeah, played for OA Saints, which is an incredible club. We have 75 women registered with us, which is huge numbers. And that's just
amazing.
our women.
Really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just our women. We have juniors and the younger girls as well on top of that. So I'd say you're looking close to 200 girls and women within the club, which is huge. We have luxuries of having Sarah McKenna, England fullback, as our coach, and Rocky Clark playing for us / coaching at times. And then we have Saracens. We're affiliated with Saracens as a club, so we're playing in Champ 1 and our 2s are about to be promoted to Champ 2. So we're Champ 1 and Champ 2. And then from there you've got Prem, Saracen. So a lot of our girls are dual registered as well, so they can play up, and if they're recovering from injuries they can come and play some games, hence why Rocky Clark was propping for us the other day, recovering from injuries, so we're quite happy when that happens. So yeah, an incredible family is the word for it, really, community that comes with that. So it's more than just that you turn up and play a sport. When you've got that many incredible people around you, it's your lifestyle. So yeah, it's amazing place to be at, really supportive.
So was your family not into rugby then? Is that you didn't get in because you had parents or siblings or anything like that? It was just through school. Just
through school. I struggled at school with my behaviour, so I was very naughty. I think my mum and dad, so my sister and my brother had heart conditions growing up, and my mum said I was the most stressful child because I was just so naughty and she did not know what to do with me. But that was when I found sport, and sport was it managed to ground me somehow and release this energy that I had, which nowadays in schools you'd probably be given the opportunity to learn in different ways. So I was a visual learner, I was a practical person, a creative person. So I wouldn't be able to just sit there in a classroom, but I would be able to move around and do stuff. So I'm sure nowadays school would maybe be a little bit more enjoyable for me, but it was like my escape really from everything that was going on. I was able to just get my head down, and I was good at it as well. So I enjoyed the satisfaction of winning a game or the fastest girl in the school, and you love all of those things you can get, really. So my mum was just like, please do as many sports as you possibly want to do, as long as you get out of trouble. So I did gymnastics to a national level. I did rugby and just badminton. Any after school club, I was there. But I grew up doing gymnastics, really. That was my main thing. And then I went into rugby, which is very, very different. But yeah, actually, I'm quite open about the fact my family aren't supportive of my rugby playing, because the fear of parents, like a lot of parents have the fear of their young girl playing a contact sport. So they're just worried about the injury side of things, but they can see how much it does for me in terms of more than just my physical health, my mental health, my social life, and they support that. But I just don't think they could watch me get tackled. I think that's the thing. But they're very supportive in terms of my career, but not necessarily the playing side of it, which I think a lot of parents can probably relate to.
Do you think that's a barrier? Do you think that is a major barrier for girls playing?
Massive.
Yeah,
massive
I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's one of those things to try and promote the fact that the pros far outweigh the cons. Yes, there is potential for things to happen. However, they don't happen all the time, and in fact, they're quite rare. But so it's how So how would you promote that? How would you talk to a parent who's concerned about their child playing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, for me, I think, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? And I don't think it's not like, oh, she'd be doing a different sport. Like, I don't think I'd be in a good place. That's the reality of it, is I'd probably be in a dark place. I'd probably be in the wrong friendship group. I'd probably be doing the wrong things. And my childhood was heading that way, like massively. Like I was drinking at school when I was like 12, and I was like breaking out of school. I got expelled. I was just like going the wrong way massively.
Yeah.
And you sort of laugh about, oh, I was naughty at school, but like it could have turned really nasty. And I think if it wasn't for rugby, but it wasn't just sport, it was rugby in particular, that helped me, because it channeled all this energy I had. It channeled my like aggression. It channeled my need to feel accepted, to feel confident in my body. I was always really tall, taller than everyone else at school. I was bigger than everyone else. And I think no matter what I did, I never felt like accepted, like I fit in. And rugby was that one thing that was like the fact that I played from 12 and I'm still playing now just goes to show how much of an impact that can have. And it definitely like outweighs the cons. And you can get injured. Gymnastics, I got more injuries than I did playing rugby, so that just sort of sums up. You can either live in fear, or you can do things that benefit you and your life. And things can go wrong in any situation in life. If you sort of think, I'm not going to try that because that could potentially go wrong, it's like, that's not a way to live and get the most out of life. So to this day, I would never change
glass
anything.
half full, half empty scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
And life's here for living. You get one go at it. Go and have a crack, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting. You're sort that backstory you've just talked about. I mean, I know a lot of people that have got similar backstories. Whereby they were, like you said, the wrong friendship groups. They were starting to get into the wrong things. Drinking at younger ages and whatever. Although I can't say too much about drinking, to be fair. But suddenly, yeah, you can get on that slippery slope, and rugby does give you that channel, that opportunity to express yourself, and get your energy out there, and really try and feel part of something different. So that's really, really interesting, Amy.
Yeah.
So when your parents realised that rugby was perhaps a benefit to you, at school especially, but you said they didn't support you, but they wanted you to go and play sports. They must have swallowed hard then to just continue to allow you that space to go and do something that you loved, that perhaps worried them a bit.
Yeah, like for example, when I did gymnastics, I'd come home crying from training because I never felt like I was good enough, or I'd felt that the coaches were pushing me to do things I was fearful of, and things. It wasn't like an accomplishment. It was like I did things out of fear. So it was like, and my dad was always like, Amy, you don't have to do this. You don't have to go to gymnastics every day, And I was like, oh, okay, kind of thing. Like, okay, I'm going to stop now. And I was 15 when I stopped. So I did do it for a long time. But yeah, with rugby, it was, I chose to be there every day. Like, it was me that wanted to be there. It was me that put extra practice in when training wasn't on. And that is so different for me. And I think also for some, like, I struggled to stick at one thing. That was also my situation. I struggled to be like consistent, and I struggled to keep a routine. So the fact that I wanted to put all my energy into rugby was really, like, it wasn't common for me to feel like that. So it was definitely, this is something different from what she's tried before. And yeah, I think he was always just like, you can make your own decisions. This is up to you. We'll love and support you, and we're here for you when you need a trip to A&E, but we just don't want to watch it happen, So it was, and to be fair, I think I play better when people aren't watching. Like, if my mum or dad was watching me play a match, I think my nerves would overtake me, or I wouldn't be as over. Like, so I quite like that it's like me in my little bubble, even though you're with your team, and everyone else, I kind of feel like I can just be myself and no one's watching and I don't really care. I'm not doing it for anyone. I'm doing it for myself, and it's sort of that sort of side of things. So, and now, you know, they say they don't support me, but they'll post pictures of me playing rugby, and when they have their friends over for dinner, they'll say, "Oh, she had a rugby match at the weekend." They find it a cool thing to tell everyone. So I'm like, you like it really deep down. Yeah.
I'm really that story, to be honest with you, especially around your parents. There's such a bravery in a parent allowing a child to go out into the big bad world and stand on their own 2 feet and experience what tough is, because life is tough and it's not going to get any easier. And I've read a lot of psychology around parents that are perhaps a bit overprotective and don't want them to go and hurt themselves, and they mother them and mollycoddle them and protect them to the point that they're too afraid then to go out to the big bad world. And I think, and I look around today in society and see so many people that struggle with their mental health, and I just wonder sometimes whether if they, like you, had that freedom a little bit just to go out and do something that took some guts for you to go and stand on the rugby pitch and put yourself against somebody else running at you, gives you that strength, gives you that ability to go into the world and go, you know what, actually, if I can do this, I can do anything. So fair play to your parents, because, you know, like you say, they might not be, and my girlfriend's the same. She keeps on to me all the time about the fact that I'm still trying to play rugby at my ridiculous old age, about being careful. And I love the fact that she cares, but she said I had to go to the gym to get prepared for the game the other weekend, and I ended up putting my back out and cracking a rib, and I hadn't even got on the pitch yet. So
the gym's dangerous, though. It's too
dangerous.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
But no, fair play to your family. So moving on from school, you went to, did you go straight to AO to play rugby from school, or were you already part of?
So I actually did play rugby for a little bit in between, and I think that's another thing that happens. So girls will necessarily have an opportunity when they're younger, and the percentage drops massively from girls into women, because I think that's a transition where you have to try and find a club and then sort of move over, and a lot of people will stop after school or college, and that's sort of a drop-off point we find with women taking up the sport. So I think where I'd loved it so much at school, I had that, but when I started working, it was like it sort of phased out, because it was like in my head it was like something I did at school and not something I did in my life. So I think there was a gap where I was sort of working, and actually a colleague that I was working with, she come up to me and was just saying, "Oh, I play rugby at Bletchley." She was like, "Do you want to come along to training with me? We're doing like a inner warrior day." So I was like, "Yeah, okay." I used to love rugby at school, and that was like my thing. I used to love rugby at school, and then I went back, and my coach was Rocky Clark. Funny enough, when I was so I was like 17 then, and I restarted. So I played for Bletchley.
So did you go from there then to Old Albanians, and is that sort of when it was you starting to think, actually, I want to take this a bit more serious now, or was it immediate, I'm back into it and I love it and want to move forward with it?
I think at first it was like just to get back into it, get into like the social element, meet friends, have a hobby, because I didn't really have a hobby at that time. It was sort of work, go home, repeat. And I worked in healthcare, so I think I needed like an outlet that was just for me and something I could focus on for myself. So it was just sort of a hobby, social at first, and then I joined Hitchin. That was competitive. We were, undefeated for 2 years at one point at Hitchin.
Wow.
So we did well. Yeah, we got promoted twice and won twice those leagues. So really good time there. And then I had a lot of friends at OAs, and I knew OAs were, thriving in their women's program, and the coaches that they had, and then also the level they were playing at. And I went to training a few times, and I just felt like it was this like whole nother level of training that I hadn't experienced before, and just like a lot of fast paced, high intensity. People were serious. People were there to work hard, challenge each other, you know, work on skills. There were people that were like hanging around at the end and just going off in groups, being like, "Can you teach me this?" And it was just like a really buzzing environment. And then I've been there 2.5 years now, so absolutely love it. It's a great club. And then
So you, and perhaps Lee and I will get schooled a little bit now in exactly what it means to be a content creator in two old guys that grew up without that sort of thing.
Every day's a school, James. You know
That's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how you create this, because and I know this is created your career, which is so inspiring and impressive. Tell us how that works. How did you become the Rugby with Amy internet star that you are?
So it was lockdown that really initiated the whole thing, because TikTok got sort of popular over lockdown, I'd say. Like, it existed before that, and there were apps similar to it prior to it as well, but it was kind of known as this dancing app. And some people that don't really understand social media will still call it this dancing app, but it's progressed on massively now, and it's sort of a news outlet. It's a space for influencers, for ambassadors, for sales, for marketing, for brands, for sponsorships. It's like a huge platform now. But in lockdown, everyone just sort of downloaded anything that was going to entertain them from home. You know, there was a House Party and all of these cool apps that were coming out, and I think TikTok spiked massively in that time. And I followed Sam Lovell, who also is a content creator that now I worked with very, very closely. But I followed her as just a rugby fan or a rugby player, and she inspired me to start making content on TikTok. So there wasn't anyone else that was doing it, so I'd listen to sounds and be like, I could relate that to rugby and make a funny story out of that. Or so many funny things happen in rugby, like in the ruck, where your arm and your head are trapped between someone's legs, and you're all of these funny things, and you think there's so much potential to make people laugh and to relate to people, but also at the same time tell people about the sport that I love and try and get more women to be exposed to it, and sort of think of it as a normal option, and not like, wow, you play rugby, I didn't know women could play rugby, you know, all of that. So think of it more as just a normal option, and just to grow the game. And I knew TikTok, the reach and the capacity of the people that you could reach with your content was millions. And I just thought, you know, I'm sure there's some sort of way I could promote the sport through this. And as a kid, I made like videos and stuff, and I'd do like cribs. When I was on holiday, I'd go like, this is my caravan, this is my holiday home. So I'd be very into like video making anyway. So I think I always had that kind of like creative sort of presentery vlog kind of personality. And then I just found I could put that to use, but with a niche that I'm passionate about, which is rugby. And I think for anyone thinking of starting content creation, it's find a niche, because if you just film your whole life, it's a bit random and people kind of need to relate to you. And I think when you get big enough, you can film anything and people are interested in you as a person. But until that point, I would say like find a niche. So if you're into boxing and you want to review boxing matches, or you're into discovering athletes from before they're pro, like that could be your niche. So I think women's rugby was my niche, and there wasn't many people covering that at the time, and there still isn't now, to be honest. But I'm sure there will be in the year's time. So yeah, basically started posting videos with funny sounds, relating it to rugby. I then made an Instagram account to also just post rugby stuff, because I had my personal one, which is a bit of rugby and a bit of life. And I thought, let me just do one just for rugby. And then people who find me on TikTok can also find me on Instagram. So, and then, I think I did one of my first videos, like got like 250k views, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know this could reach this many people. And I think it was a little bit addictive. I was like, wow, I wonder if I could reach more, and so yeah, and it kind of got to that point. And basically, from doing it as a fun side hobby to it becoming a job, it was the Women's Six Nations last year that changed that for me. So for me, and probably a lot of other creators, so Prop Life and Sam and Stella and people like that are in this space, we all were able to go into it from the Women's Six Nations, and that was when things changed from it being a hobby to actually doing it full time. So TikTok sponsored the Women's Six Nations. It's a 4-year deal, which is huge. So they've been the first brand, I'd say, to really invest in the women's game properly, because they're not just saying we'll put some money behind a campaign or we'll sponsor your kit. It was like, here's a 4-year deal for the Women's Six Nations. It was also the first year that the women played separately to the men, not at the same time as the men. So it was going to have its own coverage as well. So its own opportunities to be broadcasted. So I think from there, TikTok themselves invited us down to the Women's Six Nations launch last year, and we covered content we had one captain from each nation, and we did some content with each of them. And then so when I was there in London at this launch, I was still working in healthcare. So I was working with people with dementia in care homes. So I was working in like a dementia nursing home at the time, doing care. And that morning I was working in the care home, and that afternoon I was at the Six Nations launch. So it was a very like hectic life. And I remember when I was at the launch, I thought, this is someone's job to do this. I was like, and I don't know how they got this as a job, but I was like, there must be a way that I could do this full time. There must be a way. And I knew how much the game was growing. So I literally just Instagram messaged companies that I wanted to work for, World Rugby, England Rugby. Like, I just put a message out there, and Ball Carrier was someone I messaged, and they were the first people to get back to me within a couple of days. Asked for a Zoom call, had a chat. They could see how passionate I was, how creative I was, all the ideas I had, the channel that I'd created that had sort of grown. And they were like, let's bring you on board to cover the women's game, and let's see how it goes. And then from there, it just took off, I think, because there was a massive gap and a need for that market at the time. So yeah, it's weird when you explain to people you go from healthcare to TikTok, but that is sort of where it landed.
It's always difficult. I mean, I understand the social media space well, but for people like Lee, it's difficult to watch someone like yourself and go, how are they making a living from this? They're
going to ask that question, actually.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Give you some tips.
Making money from making videos. Yeah. So is it just a case of, because you mentioned Stella Mills, who actually is a local girl to us, and we've sort of, because of that, sort of watched her journey through, much the same as yours. I mean, for a start, wow, that must have been an amazing feeling when you got a message back from Ball Carrier saying, hey, come on board with us.
Yeah.
But as a career, like you say, it's something that really hasn't even been a career for very many years. How do you feel as a social media content creator? How do you feel your career kind of stacks up against the career you had when you were in healthcare?
Yeah, so for people that had worked in healthcare, know that you don't do it for the money. That's the first thing. You do it because you love people and you want people to have the best quality of life they could possibly have. You know, I worked very passionate about dementia from family and things like that. So that was something that I just naturally, I felt like if people would say, what's your calling? Like, I feel like that was my calling in life, was to look after people. And it felt very natural to me and I loved it. And I do think they're skills in life that you will never lose. And I always recommend, like, if anyone can just work in care for a week, you'll learn so much about yourself, about life. And I will one day, like, I will volunteer, I will go back. Like, I miss it in terms of the people, but I know that I'm using those skills in anything that I do. So that's why, even in, you think, how can working in content and social media be rewarding? And it's like, well, 14-year-old girls messaging me saying, we started a rugby club at our school because we watched your videos. It's like, that's still the same feeling. Awesome. That you get. Yeah, so literally she said, me and 6 friends went to the head teacher and said, we want to start a girls club, we've got 6 of us, can we start one and then see who else joins? And now they've got a full-blown after school club women's rugby at their school because they watch my videos and things. So you can still use these skills and it can still be rewarding, but in a slightly different way. So and in terms of how do you make money making videos on TikTok and things, and I'm like, again, open to talk about that. And I think brands are investing in women's rugby because ultimately, if they don't, it's almost like, why aren't you covering it? Like, what is the excuse as to why you're only focusing on the men's game when the women's game is breaking records at the moment and is, recruiting massively more than the men's game currently, which is actually decreasing in participation. So it's like, instead of, the majority are still men, but what can we learn from the fact that the girls are doing things differently to how things have always been done? So I think it's, let's learn from each other in terms of that and see it as rugby, not men's rugby, girls rugby, women's rugby. It's just, we're rugby fans, we're rugby players, and seeing it in that light. So I think there's a lot people can learn from that. But brands, like I said, and now it's sort of like, if you don't cover it, then why? And I think a good way in is not necessarily, if they can't access athletes, they can access us, who is open to be able to take people behind the scenes, take people with us to training, show people what a day in a life looks like as a rugby player, show people why we love it, a bit of humour, a bit of fun with it, and use our creativity. So they'll basically, a brand might approach us and say, we want to showcase women's sport more, women's rugby, team sports, and we'd come up with a concept idea. So basically, we come up with the idea, we film the idea, we edit the idea, and then we'll post it. And obviously they get access to, firstly, the idea itself, because a lot of people don't know where to start. Secondly, the views, the followers, the engagement that you get after it. And then thirdly, they're now a respectable brand within the industry as well, to say that they're covering that. So we'd get paid to do a video or whatever. And if you're freelance, you're looking to get lots of those. Whereas for me, I'm full-time in a job. So I have the security of having like a full-time job. And then on top of that, I can have freelance opportunities. So it's not like my only source of income. So it's a little bit more of a secure way of doing it, but you do then have to turn down some freelance things because of time. So it depends on which route you want to go down, and different people have chose different ones. But this seems to work for me best really at the moment. So yeah.
I must admit, I quite a lot of the content creators I watch in and around rugby, especially the female content creators, are more focused on the female game, but you seem to be across rugby full stop, which is, I'm not saying anybody has to pick a side or not, but it's just interesting to see how some focus in one area and you're broad across rugby full stop, and actually it brings a different dynamic to the men's game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think if like I'm part of my message is like rugby should just be rugby, I should also be covering men's to prove that point. So if I just cover cover women's, then I'm a women's rugby fan. So that's what I'd have to call myself. So if you just watch men's rugby, you're a men's rugby fan, you're not a rugby fan. So I'm a rugby fan, so I can cover both. And I think it's important for me to be present. And, you know, I'm quite proud when I'm standing there interviewing these people thinking I'm a woman and I've earned my space to be here. And, you know, that kind of, to be able to represent the sport as a woman in a male dominated sport, and to be able to interview and talk to these people. And I think you get a lot of respect for players from that, which also equals they'll give you a lot more time. And I think because they also, you know, want to see the sport grow. And, you know, the players I speak to, they're like the best male allies as well. They're really passionate about the women's game. And I think that's not showcased enough either. And when you talk to them, they also are really passionate about the same thing that we are. So it's good to speak to them. And yeah, like I think the person probably that I spoke to most is probably Sia Khaleesi. He has actually become someone that we speak quite regularly, and he's really, really nice and down to earth. And obviously he has his foundation, the Khaleesi Foundation, which he runs, and his clothing brand and things on top of that. And he puts a lot of time into helping me develop, and also giving me access to things. And that's a male ally. It's not just like someone who plays. It's like someone who's investing in people like me, and yeah, showcasing the game and being open to be interviewed and talk openly and things. So you know, he's even given me ideas for a podcast and stuff like this, and I'm like, I don't have the time for all of that. But like he's got ideas that he can't do because he plays, and if he finds people that like have the same passion as him, he sort of wants to help with his ideas that he might not have time for. So players will generally, another one's probably Lewis Ludlam as well, Northampton Saints. So, like an incredible guy who spoke at the beginning of the Loughborough Lightning game about the women's game growing, and he comes down before and he watches the women. And again, another great male ally. And I think that's not shown enough, and the fact that I can be there interviewing these men and saying, actually, they're shouting about the women's game. It's not what you think. It sort of shows rugby in a different light. So I think if I can help that, then it's great.
No, that's brilliant. Really brilliant. Conscious of time, so I think we're going to call half time. Just do a couple of quick announcements. Bridgnorth Rugby Club, they've been in touch. They're currently trying to develop a new clubhouse because they've got a real growing mini and youth side, which are struggling for changing rooms and facilities. So they're trying to fund it themselves. They've got a crowdfunder page out, which if you Google Bridgnorth Rugby Club crowdfunder page, you may well find it. Either that or get in touch with Bridgnorth Rugby Club and support them in any way you can. Also, delighted that Be More Rugby was featured in the Dorset Spotlight magazine, which is a free bi-monthly magazine that celebrates sporting achievements and health and well-being throughout Dorset. Shout out to Dawn Exley, the founder and editor. Go and find it on www.dorsetspotlight.co.uk. Check out page 29. Lee gets a mention.
Do I?
There you go. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm going to have a look at that now.
And anybody, we're trying to promote grassroots rugby. If you've got anything to shout about or something you need help with, please get in touch with us at info@bemorerugby.com or on any of the social medias, Be More Rugby or at Be More Rugby or whatever they are. That's how much we know about social media. Something
I'm
Be
learning.
More Rugby,
I'm learning,
you'll find it.
you know?
Get in touch with us. Tell us what you want promoting, and we'll do our best to give you the support we can. So, second half is where we talk to our guest about the help, support, how rugby is influenced, and giving them skills that they can take out into the big wide world of business or personal life. Amy, we like to start the second half off, and I know you've talked about how rugby's helped you, etc. But the question we like to start off with is, what does rugby mean to you?
Nice. I would struggle to answer this one because it's a lot of different things, I guess. But for me, it's like I've said before, it's sort of my escape and my little alone time that I can just let go of the busyness of life and just get my head down and just focus on myself in that moment. And I think for someone who has suffered with anxiety and things in the past, I think to be able to just get out on a rugby pitch and sort of focus on just carrying that ball and the next tackle and the next thing, it sort of is a little break for me. Even though it's a physically demanding, it's a break for my mind. So for me, it's my escape. That's how I always sum it up.
Yeah, you kind of have to be in the moment, don't you? There's nothing, you can't but get distracted by whatever else might be going on in your life. Once the whistle goes, you're in the game. It's live. There's opposition out there who are hunting you down. So yeah, you've got to be on it, haven't you? So no,
definitely that's the difference, I think, in rugby to other sports that I've tried is you don't have time to overthink because you've got someone chasing you or you've got to chase someone, so it's like just the next thing. And the lead up to games are always going to be nerve-wracking, but like you said, as soon as that whistle blows, it's like, right, what's next, and it's just a nice way to focus on the moment in life.
No, that's really cool. And like you touched on in the first half, you were very open about the fact that you were in a dark place. Have been in a dark place, and rugby's brought you out. We've had other guests that have referred to rugby as a lighthouse of hope that just gave them something to look towards and guide them out of those dark times and give them some guidance, if you like. Really like that.
Right, so it's just next question, Amy. So for you, what have you learned from rugby that has helped you most?
Oh, I like that. Have a think about this one, but probably that self-belief, I guess. It's sort of the confidence that it gives you in the self-belief, but I guess, like, I'm going to say it, people my generation or younger, I feel we give up too easily. And we're a little bit like, it doesn't work out, like, oh, I won't bother again. And I think it's taught me a bit of discipline and being like, listen, you have to push through like the rubbish times and like tolerate things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you kind of need to do to get you somewhere. And I think it's given me a bit more of a stronger mindset in terms of like keep pushing through rather than just sort of giving up at the first hurdle, because life's not easy. Rugby's not easy, and someone explained it to me before really well, and it was imagining it was your first day at rugby and no one briefed you as to what the game is, no one's told you anything, and they just say, right, run and tackle that bag. You're probably gonna think, I don't know what to do, I'm going to get hurt, I don't know where to start. And, you probably, when you do it as well, you're probably then going to go in bracing slightly. So you're probably going to go in and get injured. You're probably not going to know what to do. And you're probably going to not give 100%. Whereas I think if you were to have the knowledge and the reasons and why, when you go into that tackle, you're going to see yourself go through it. And I think it's a bit like life. If you sort of don't take everything with you and learn, you're probably going to brace for impact, probably get injured or not look after yourself. Whereas if you know what you're doing and you're prepared and you visualize it and how it's going to happen, you're going to go through the tackle and you're less likely to get hurt in the process, even though you're probably going to go harder. So I think for me, I've always sort of had that vision of knowledge is power and health is power, and imagining, visualization, all of those things can be the difference if you get hurt in life or you keep pushing through. So yeah,
sounds like, and you brought it up, there's a generation today that seem to be a little bit of a give up.
Isn't there a buzzword for that?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll leave that one to your own imaginations, probably. But
Fill
yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
gaps at
yeah,
home.
we Lee and I are a different generation, and there was, and I don't know what it was. Perhaps it was just that we were kicked out by our parents. So maybe it's our generation that's pampered the next generation to perhaps not push them to. Like, we go back to what you were saying about your parents. They were scared and worried about you going and playing rugby, but and they could have stopped you. They could have said, you know what, actually, no, it's too dangerous. I don't want you getting hurt. You're not going to do that because for whatever reason, but they actually let you go. And I think probably there's a failing on our generation that hadn't let our youngsters go enough. We talk about, you know, when we were kids, we'd go off on our bikes and not come back till it was dark, and we'd jump off stuff and climb up bales and all the rest. And then we stop our kids going out because, well, it's getting a bit dark, or phone us where you are. And I don't know.
Oh, I think phones have got a lot to answer for, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
There you go. Yeah. No, there is that. I think, like, I was probably one of the last generations to grow up without phones. So, like, when I met up with friends, it was to, like, play and hang out and do sports. And, like, I'm 26, so I'm not, like, old, but when I talk about things I did as a child, it makes me sound old because it's nothing like the generation that are growing up now. Like, we used to have rollerblades and go out, like, around the cul-de-sac and stuff, and we'd get chalk and, like, draw along the whole cul-de-sac. We'd have street parties. I literally made, like, a bucket on string with my neighbor, and we'd put stuff in and pull it. I'm like, that sounds so old-fashioned, but that was only, like, 12, 13 years ago. It wasn't, like, as long as people think. But now, like you're saying, with phones, people are grown up with everyone's opinion of them, a lot of judgment, a lot of fear, a lot of wanting to fit in, a lot of this is where I should be. Social media not being realistic as well is a huge part of that. People saying what they see looks real and they aiming for that, and it's not reality. So there's a lot of that as well. And I think people grow up too quick. And yeah, I think a big part of that is there's not as much tough love. And I think as an adult, I'm still learning to be a bit more, like, tougher with myself. Like, no, Amy, you will be okay. Like, you're not, just because you feel a bit anxious today doesn't mean your world's ending. Like, because sometimes if I do feel anxious, I think, oh God, am I going downhill? Whereas it might just be you're just having a bit of a rubbish day, and you need to, like, just keep, like, actually, no, I'm not gonna take this as, like, fact. I'm gonna push through, and then you're okay again. So I think there's a balance where things are more talked about and more open, and then still being a little bit more, like, harsh with yourself as well. So I think there's a balance in life, but I do think rugby teaches you a lot of those values, which is good.
I agree. I mean, that's why we started the podcast in the first place, because I know personally with my kids, and I know Lee and I have talked about this before, and Jay, our vastly younger other co-host, we've talked about the fact that there's always going to be anxieties and there's always going to be worries in life. There's nothing wrong with anxiety. Anxiety is a built-in aspect of our being that tells us that something needs addressing. And if we weren't anxious, then everything's fine and dandy and no problems. Something's going to sort of blindside us at some point. But that anxiety, and I spoke to my boys as well when they said, "Oh, you know, I was feeling a bit anxious or whatever." Okay, well, there must be something that you need to address. You need to focus on it. You need to tackle it head on, get it sorted in your own head. And like you said, if you don't know how to play rugby, then you're not going to be able to hit that tackle bag with any confidence or skill, and you're probably going to hurt yourself. There's anxiety right there. But if you go, actually, I've got to hit that tackle pad. Let me figure out what I need to do. Let me address it, and then let me hit it head on with confidence and some skill. Then anxiety is sorted.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you still got to do it. You still got to hit that thing, but you can choose if you're going to let it hit you or you're going to push through it, you know? So it's like, and everyone knows in rugby, like, if you're more confident with your tackles, you're less likely to get hurt. Even, you know, so I think it's the same, like you're saying, in life. If you're saying, right, either way, I've got to do this. So it's either I do it with confidence and smash through it, or I let it sort of just happen to me. And it's like you forget you're in control. And I think a lot of people think life's happening to them, and it's like, no, you're in control of how life happens to you. And you can choose how to take it. It doesn't mean it's easy. If anything, when you're having more control, it can be slightly harder, but at least it's going to be you making those decisions, you know. Because also if it was fact that, say for example, you have a fear of heights, if that fear of heights was like a fact, that means everyone would have a fear of heights. So you know that it's not the heights that's the problem, it's the way you're thinking about the height that's the problem. So I think it's taking responsibility. It's me that is making this, so it's me that can also change this. And I think that's a mindset that I'm always implementing and trying, you know. And still in life, I can find myself thinking quite externally, and then I'm like, actually, Amy, that's not happening to you. That's the way you're thinking about it. So it's a good thing that helps me keep on track, and something that I've learned even just in my adult years.
I love that. Thank you. So what do you hope people get from rugby that they can use in their daily lives?
I'd say it's that acceptance and not to change who you are. I think because in life you're always trying to mirror, you know, I should be more like my boss, I should be more like this person who's doing really well, I should be where my brother was when he was my age by this point, and I should be earning this much, and and I think you constantly compare yourself to other people. And I think rugby is very much like celebrates everyone's different, and it celebrates there's a skill you can have for whatever you bring to the table. And I love that, like, a professional women's athlete can look like a size 16 woman, and you're like, that's a pro athlete. So, but maybe not the world's interpretation of what an athlete looks like. And I love that they don't have to change who they are, because the way that they look and the way that they are will help them massively with elements that other people won't be able to hit if they look different. So I think it teaches you to embrace who you are, embrace your body type, everything like that. And yeah, just realize that you can give something no matter what stage you're at. So that's what I love about rugby, really.
I like to say, and I've said before, with regards to rugby, we can't all play the same position. So embrace the fact that you're different, because being different helps you fit in. So,
yeah,
you know, embrace it and do something with it.
It's all about writing your own story, isn't it? Really, you know, I'm gonna put my mark on the world, if you like, yeah, in the way that I can, you know. And that doesn't mean you have to conform to what everyone else thinks. You know, you just get on, do your thing, you know. And as James said, the beauty of the game is the fact that, you know, we require people of all shapes and sizes, you know, different, you know, with all sorts of different skills, and that's what makes it so fantastic.
Thank you for
yeah,
that.
I love it. And that's when, like, I do think it's quite fun, like when you're out on like a rugby social, and it's like you'd never put these 16 people together, but these people are together, and it's just, it makes like the best memories and the best nights out, because it's like so many different people together, and it just works. And like you're saying, everyone's got a story and a reason why they're there. And yeah, I like the sort of people who you get at rugby are the sort of people that maybe didn't feel like they fit in and stuff. So it's not the misfits. It's like, these are the people that can now feel accepted in something. But at the same time, it's like when you all come together, it's just, I love it, because it's like I would never maybe meet these people through any other situation in life. Because when do you ever have a moment in life where you can meet people like in that setting? So yeah, I love it. I think, and every rugby club has its quirks and has its different people, and I love it.
Cool, love that. What we got now, Lee?
Amy, what advice would you give to anyone thinking of taking up rugby?
I'd say don't be scared of it, first of all. Like you're saying, anything can happen to you at any point in life, in any sport, in any moment in life. So if it's injury holding you back, like, again, you can't wrap yourself in bubble wrap in life. I'd say go for it. It's kind of like something that you'll do for the first time. And I don't know if you've had this before, like if you get a new job and you get off the phone from like the job offer and you're like, ee! It's sort of like jumping around. And I feel like once you've done your first session of rugby, it's like, I can't believe I just did that. And like, I'm proud of myself. I did this and I did that. And you come away like buzzing. And I think that feeling you just can't buy. And I'd just say, like, give it a go. And yeah, it's one of those things that you'll leave buzzing from, and you'll leave with 50 new friends that are all going to check in on you and all going to see if you're okay. And if you're not there at training, someone's just checking in on you. You've got a lot more support around you. And who says you can't have a cool hobby in your 30s? Do you know what I mean? Who says that you have to be living life to a certain way? And I think do something different, do something for yourself, and just try it out.
Great advice. To be honest with you, I mean, we both Lee and I still try to grace the pitch as often as we can when we're in our
Grace, did you use the word grace then, did you?
fall and pick each other up again and then fall again on the pitch. But I mean, on a Wednesday night, I come down here with our vets touch game, which is the fat dads, and we've got all ages. Mike's in his 70s.
Yeah.
And it's just such a fantastic place to come and just run around at a stupid age. Then we've got the mini and youth, and out here on a Sunday morning, there's two pitches out here and you can't see the grass for mini and youth running around on it all the time. But the only thing that we really are struggling still down here, and I'll put this out to everybody, so we're still struggling to get a really good number of girls and women down to create a women's game. Most of ours are going up to Ringwood and Ellingham and
Yes, yeah.
and Swans and that to try and play good competitive rugby. But I can see it coming. We're starting to develop a bit more of a youth girls team down here. But yeah.
Well, certainly with some of the work that you're doing, Amy, to put the word out there and spread it far and wide, even on platforms that I don't really understand. But of course, everyone that seems to be younger than me understands it. But yeah, no, people like yourselves that are doing that. Yeah, that's fantastic. That can only help to grow the game. And as James said, we at our club, we have my daughter's involved as well. But we have a number of girls across the 4 age groups. But we just need more numbers. It's difficult when you've got sort of 5 or 6 girls out there to try and do something meaningful with them. I'm sure that they're out there. The girls are out there that want to play. Maybe the hurdle is just like, as you said, just getting over that first training session.
Yeah, I do find as well, like, sometimes what I try to do with my content and what I'm trying to do with the future of my content is take rugby out of its environment, because if people aren't going to come into the rugby environment, find where they're at and where they're hanging out and what they're doing and take it to them. And I think rugby is probably one of the only sports, if you look at football's in the music industry, in the art industry, in the food industry, like, it doesn't matter. Football's in any creative hobby, passion, niche, and it's sort of like take rugby out of the rugby pitch environment and put on like a boot camp class, a circuits class, and just get like part of the exercises when you're doing squats is you're holding a rugby ball, and it's like take rugby out of its environment. Doing like little workshop days or getting guest coaches down for the day, or special like live Q&As after training. I remember we used to do like a carb loading session, and where it would just be like we'd all pay £5, and like the local like takeaway thing would just set us all out a meal, so it'd be like half an hour of training and like an hour of eating food and just having fun, and people used to bring their friends down to that.
That sounds better, actually. That's not what
Yeah.
that's
not for you. You've already signed the line now.
oh yeah, that's right.
No, but yeah, I think so. It's like taking rugby out to the environment, like the same with universities and schools. And I think part of what I'm looking to do with Canterbury in the future is taking athletes into like assemblies and talking to them about rugby, and like just showing rugby off for what it is, but to people that might not access it because their parents don't play, their friends don't play. So I just say look outside of the box slightly with that, and the people out there, they don't even know that that's what they need yet, but that is one of those things. It's just finding the right space to do it, and like you said, the clubs that are doing well are doing very, very well, but the clubs that are looking to start are battling kind of with the fact that the clubs that are doing well have taken a lot of the numbers, so it's hard, but once you get that started, the growth happens quite quick. I think it's the start to like 10-15, and then it will be like new people all the time, because people are like, we're getting more people out of this. So so I think it's keep persisting, and the people are out there, they will come, but yes, trying something new with it.
I love that. That's so inspirational, because I know as in business, I grew up there, when I first started in business, there were no mobile phones. I think at best we had a fax machine. Everything was slow and complicated, and you had to set up formal meetings, send letters, blah, blah, blah. Communication was difficult. But I know that today we're communicating over WhatsApp, everything's a WhatsApp group. And in another 5 or 10 years' time, it's going to be Snapchat or something like that, when the young workforce that are still in college and school now are going to be coming into business. I still don't know what Snapchat is, so that's going to be a difficult one. But it's like you said about taking out of its rugby, out of its environment. Listening to you talk about the fact that you've taken rugby onto TikTok and Instagram, and the fact that you've had a group of girls that have messaged you and said, because of what you're doing, we've gone to our school and said, we want a rugby club, we want a rugby team here, and they've created something like that's just the most inspirational thing I've heard. I can't remember how long, and it must make you properly buzz to feel that you've done that. You haven't just been a rugby club and gone, come on everybody, come down to our rugby club. You've gone, actually, I'm going to go out and spread this and sow the seed, and look at what's happened from it. Amazing.
No, it is incredible. And I've actually got a post on it somewhere. I was just trying to find, because I screenshot some of the messages that I've had from girls over the time, and that was just one example, but I'd had like 20-30 messages from similar things of girls that have seen my content and started playing rugby, or have gone back to rugby because of it, or have started playing rugby in their schools and things like that as well. Because it was great for me to see, because at the time you don't really know who's watching and if it's gonna have an impact, make a difference. Recently found your TikTok and straight away followed you. Seeing this has really proved how much of a genuine person you are, also inspiring. I've been playing girls rugby for a few years and now I love it. So nice to see other women. So I don't think that people really saw other women playing. Saw your video about mental health and rugby, and how it's impacted you in a positive way. I play rugby myself and still struggle. I'm trying to reach out for support. It's made me realise that I'll feel so much better and happy again if I start playing. So these are sort of the messages I've got. An inspiration to girls and women community. Rugby has been a big part of my life since I was young, but I haven't played recently. But seeing your TikToks, I've just joined my club again. So there's just loads of messages from there. And can you give me advice on my rugby position? I want to get better. Stuff like that. It's just so nice, and I'm like, that's why I do it. It's to have those young girls message and be inspired. And there wasn't really people that they could look at in the space. So to be able to start that, and I did a story on my Instagram the other day, just saying, if you're creative, you quite enjoy videos or being in front of camera, like, just start creating content around rugby, because there is brands that are reaching out to a lot of our creators, and we're all in a WhatsApp group and there's moments where we haven't been able to take on the work because there's been so much. So there is space in this industry for more women and more girls to come into it. So if you're thinking about working in rugby and you want to interview Sia Khaleesi or Eben Etzebeth or whoever, or you want to be at the Six Nations with all the girls there and stuff, it's like, just start filming yourself and go out and do it. Book a ticket to a game and hang out at the end, see if you can ask them 5 questions, and just start making some videos, because the industry is crying out for more people. And I think I could probably count on like one hand how many of us there are, and we get a lot of requests. So like, it's not something we're precious about. We're like, please, like, let's get more people into this. And there are a lot of young girls, and if you've seen like Frankie, she's, I think it's called That Rugby Girl on hers, but she's brought a microphone now. She started interviewing people. Harlequins hired her for the day as a junior presenter. So this is what I mean. People are jumping on someone that's just willing to do it. Loose Heads also paid for Camilla and Frankie to come down to a game and to be the presenter for the day and interview players. So there are brands that are looking to see the next generation move into this space, and it's not something, I'm not going to be cool forever either, so I do need younger people to come in and do this. So like, we've created a new career path, I guess, for women and girls. So get into it, get involved. I always say as well, I've had a few people message saying, how do you do it? And I brought them with me for the day, and they've just come with me and just shadowed, really. So again, if people want to do that, message me. Like, I'm up for anything like that, and to receive messages like that makes it all worth it.
That's brilliant. That's really cool.
Fantastic. I'll pass it on to my daughters. Actually, they'd love to do that. So
yeah,
yeah, they can come with me.
Yeah,
is there a club they support, or?
Well, we're sort of stuck in between here, because we've got Bath about 2 hours away, Exeter about 2 hours away, Quinn's about 2 hours away. So we sort of end up splitting ourselves into those sort of 3 areas, really. But I suppose out of all of them, we probably go to Bath the most often, and then Quinn's quite a lot as well. So, but I'll give that information. Yeah, and
a lot of the Prem men players, when I was at the Premiership launch, they said Bath had the worst changing room in the Prem.
They probably do, actually. Yeah,
they deserve it too. Amy, I think time has beat us. I just want to say thank you. And I was so excited when we finally managed to get this date sorted, because this is exactly what we have been trying to do with Be More Rugby. We've been trying to get promote the game firstly, but also promote the benefits of rugby to everybody, all ages, all creeds, all sexes, all everybody. So it's been a real joy to have you on. Plus, it's something that, I mean, I dabble in this. It's so not what I know to do. I'm out trying to spread the word. Lee's been brilliant in co-hosting as well. Jay also with us. Our social media is run by me, who obviously know a lot about social media, but it's just about getting that word out there. So to have someone like yourself on that's really championing rugby, especially for the youth of today, because hey, we don't appeal too much to the youth of today.
No.
But to appeal to the youth of today, to try and revive rugby as a whole, men's, women's, everything. But to get people in so that they get that benefit, that health benefit. And if there's some things that I'm going to take away today, I mean, for a start, you talked about how rugby's given you that ability to get out of a dark place. It's helped you with your mental and your or physical health. I've got so many notes down here already, but just to listen to you talk with passion about how it's helped you, what it means to you, and how you are now spreading that word to help others in the world. I mean, say others, millions of people that are watching your videos. But to get the response that you've had with young girls saying, we've taken your advice, your inspiration, and we've gone and done something, and now look, we've got a rugby team. It's absolutely inspirational. So thank you for that.
For me, I think it's really about the positive exposure you're giving the game. As I said, I don't know a lot about the whole social media thing, but I know enough to understand the numbers. Yeah, and you're clearly reaching lots and lots of people. And you've got an incredible story as well. It's not something you don't know. You know about what you're trying to promote. And secondly, the fact that you've been able to identify a niche, within the game you like, and create yourself a job from it is fantastic. How many people can say that? That's a great thing. Great, no, exactly, nor me. So that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. And there's very few people that can identify with themselves and say, yeah, I've managed to do that. I've definitely created myself. And the other thing is, I'm still going to have to try and find my niche before I go on TikTok as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure what it is at the minute. No, I've written it down in big letters here. So yeah, I'll do it from a niche.
Find your niche.
Yeah, and then I'll try and find out what TikTok is.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe start with find out what TikTok is, then find your niche.
I knew it was going to be the wrong way around.
There you go. Well, to be fair, I'm a very creative person, so before this there was other projects that I tried to do, and I almost see it as like someone that's trying to invent a cool machine and it keeps going wrong, and then they finally find like the perfect combination, and this was like my little finally found my niche after trying lots of different things. So be persistent with it and be confident. I think the biggest thing as well is don't worry about how you look to other people, because I think I know for a fact that I've had negative comments online and in person when I started doing this, and the same people are now asking me for advice. So I just think keep pushing with it, because you know why you're doing it, and it's not for the people who have got negative comments. You're not going to try and change people's minds. You want to gain new audiences and get their perspective. So push through those barriers as well. Online comments, just keep going, because then when you're standing there interviewing some of the world champions, it's like, okay, let's like leave those little comments about, oh, it's cringe and whatever. I think you have to just go for it and start it. So just be confident and keep pushing through. But and this, what you guys are doing with the podcast as well, just keep doing it, because this is the sort of thing that the rugby space needs. You'll be listening back to these podcasts when you've got your 75 girls at your club, so it's keep pushing with that, and getting the word out there, because any way we can push and get the word out there is better. So yeah, I love it.
There we go. Rugby's all about getting knocked down, getting back up, getting your eye on that try line, and supporting those around you and being supported. Don't stop.
Absolutely, all about resilience.
Brilliant.
Love that word.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've come to an end, but just want to say to everybody that's listening, I hope you're enjoying. I'm never sure whether I should have done this at the beginning, but if you like what we do, like it, follow, I don't know, on whatever it is you're listening, drop us some comments if you want to be on the podcast, or if you've got comments about the podcast, give us a message on the social media stuff.
Or send us a fax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or send us a fax. Lee will pick those up. Lee's our fax media consultant. So yeah,
well, look, Lee, when you get TikTok, Lee, I'll be your first follower. How
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm always nervous.
There you go.
I'm on Instagram now, and I'm always nervous about pressing the wrong buttons. I never quite know what might happen. Do you know?
Just don't
Yeah.
like a picture from like 5 years ago.
There you go. So everybody, thank you again. Thank you, Amy. You've been an absolute joy and an inspiration. Thank you, Lee. Again, you've been just Lee.
Myself,
What can I say?
Not-
You've
not
been
a lot,
Lee.
really.
And to everybody that's listening, till next time, be more rugby. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Amy. It's been fantastic chatting to you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks for having me.